I was rather set on a bath and a flagon of wine.
Drink takes the pain away.
I am but a man. The dragons are gods.
Until death, till the end of our story.
I drink and I know things. That's what I do.
How many words do you have?
Welcome back to Flagons and Dragons. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth. And not only am I a master of Bill's Law, I'm a man of my word. And we said we were going to do a wrap up, and here we are. None of that ending the season 2 episodes early like some shows. Once again, I'm here at Magna Mills, and we are wrapping up season 2 of House of the Dragon. Mills, why don't you make with the malarkey so we can get down to business?
And no time for your boy Mike over there, dude. It's a full-on no time for love, Dr. Jones situation. But thank you for finding time for Flagons and Dragons, presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. You can find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. Same place on the interwebs, dudeswatchstuff.com. We like to keep it easy. We like to keep it simple, just like the Flaps. FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. You had fun. Take time, lean them down off your dragon just slightly. Click that thumb. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, we would. And just a heads up, and this is of absolute critical importance here, this is going to include full-on spoilers from this second forward. All aired episodes of House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones could come up, as well as any rumors, articles, podcasts, cast interviews, you name it. The only thing we won't do is spoil future events from Fire and Blood. Other than that, it's all on the table here. And if you don't know, now you know.
It's the wrap-up, right? It's a full-on Bobby Boucher Waterboy situation. No holding anything back, right? It's the bull for the, was it the Mud Dogs, for the Mud Dogs down there? I think we should probably just kind of start with some kind of generalities and then go from there. Now that we've had a week to dwell on it, how do you feel about the finale? Do you feel any different? For the record, if you didn't see our previous episode, we both thought the finale was a decent enough episode of House of the Dragon, but really didn't function well as a season finale. After a week, you still feel about the same way, or has you changed it all one way or the other?
I do still pretty much feel the same way. Look, it was a good episode, and I think I just can't get over the fact of how perfect it would have been to set up this incredible rip your face off, melt your socks, penultimate episode that should have been. It's like the episode that was promised, right? And we didn't get it. And now we just have to deal with that and wait 2 years and it'll come eventually. But I think my biggest thing is I just worry this is going to be a continuing trend with them. With cutting the shows and cutting the episodes and the season's down by 2. It was good. The montage, I think I've probably gotten over the insult, the slap in the face of we just did the trailer for season 3 of everything you wished you saw in season 2, and that's how we ended the season. And I've started to give it a little bit more credit than originally, but all in all, Mills, I'm kind of in the same boat that I was a week ago.
I pretty much agree with that. After reading a few things, it feels like exactly what I thought happened. They had a 10-episode season. They were told it was 8 on short notice. The writer's strike was on. They couldn't do a lot of edits, so they kind of just left it as is, figuring, all right, we're going out on a setup episode, right? Because 9 was going to be, no book spoilers, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll melt your face, kind of like it was the episode that was promised. And based on the reaction I've seen online, I think that how disappointed you are is proportionate to how big of a fan you are. I think the bigger the fan, the more disappointed you are. I've talked to a couple more casual fans, and they were like, oh, it wasn't great or whatever, but it's cool setup for next season. They didn't seem to mind as much. So I would say that, I guess, the more invested you are, the more disappointing I think it is for you, because you were kind of promised, the fireworks factory that was promised, right? You're like the kid, you can see it. Your parents are almost there. Fireworks factory's there. It's like, oh no, forgot the wall. We got to turn around and go home. We'll be back though. We're going to have to come back next week. I don't know if we'll make it. They might close, but we'll get there eventually. We promise. And that's more or less how it feels. I don't know that you can really cut it any other way. It ended on a note that didn't feel like, a season finale, and the long wait just makes it worse. If you told me right now we're definitely getting new episodes next June, I'd hate it, but not as much. Again, I think it's just proportionate. The further away the season 3 premiere is, the rougher that is as a finale.
Totally agree. And even though it's somewhat mitigated by maybe getting a spinoff or something in between, it still just is a daunting task to think about. So that's where we're at. How about season 2 overall? We'll get around to our grades, but I wanted to just kind of gauge your level of satisfaction here. Did the season live up to the expectations? Again, we waited 2 years for it. You've read the book. Like, was this what you thought it was going to be?
I think for the most part, it was what I thought it was going to be, but they did not cover nearly as much ground as I had expected them to. Had they gone through with what I think episodes 9 and 10 would have been, I think it would have got there pretty much. I think what we saw was typically great. The acting was great, looked great, music's awesome. Dragons were super up to spec. Would have liked to have gotten more of them. But I think we were realistic going in. Would we say there would be like under over, 1.5 to 2.5 dragon versus dragon fights, simply because they are so expensive. And the more of them you do, the less special they are. So overall, I think it's basically until they ended on that note, they were meeting my expectations. I don't think they had greatly succeeded them. Although I will say the Red Dragon and the Gold there, episode 4 was my favorite episode of the show so far. But I also think the weakest stretch of the show was probably the last couple of episodes here. For the most part, at least probably 6 and 8. I think we were both a little bit higher on 7 than a lot of people. We really enjoyed that one with the dragon seeds and everything like that. How about yourself, man? Did season 2 live up to the bar you set for it coming in?
Yes and no. In some regards, it did, and in some regards, it exceeded. But I think I expected a little bit more. I didn't expect the entire season to just be one big giant buildup, and it felt like that more often than not. So while I think they did a great job in certain areas, I think I was a little bit let down with we didn't get to more action. We really had, one or two kind of key action scenes, a bunch of great scenes, but we just didn't get into kind of the big deal of it all, which I thought maybe we would start to get a little bit of this season. But yes, it did, but not quite as much as I wanted it to.
Let's go on a little bit of a higher note here, real quick. What was your most pleasant surprise of season 2? Could be a moment, kind of a cameo, a location, anything like that. Kind of the most pleasant surprise, something you weren't expecting. You're like, oh, that was awesome.
Definitely some great, scenery type stuff. But I gotta say, probably in that final episode, having Lannister go over to Essos, I just, even though they kind of wasted a long time with that, and it was like a huge chunk of the episode, it was kind of a surprise and pretty cool. Outside of that, I'll say Masseria, just her character in general, I thought was a surprise and pretty awesome, honestly.
You know what? I will go with kind of what you went with, but expand on a little bit. Just how good some of the side characters became. Like I love Simon Strong. I thought Gwaine did a good job. Like I liked him more as the season went along. I loved young Oscar Tully down there. A lot of these, smaller characters that only came in for maybe an episode or two, I thought they really nailed. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And given, a guy like Tyler Lannister, kind of something to do. This isn't in the books at all. The show came up with it. It was such a contrast. It was bright and funny and kind of like with joy in it. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of joy in House of the Dragon. Maybe a little bit when Ulf was flying there over King's Landing on his dragon occasionally, but I do like the show giving us a little bit of levity injected into it, especially it is, generally very dark subject matter that sometimes has either, kid side or infanticide or incest. A lot of, it's kind of dark, dude.
Yeah, it can get pretty darn dark there. So it was nice to brighten it up a smidge over in Essos. Let's get into our character discussion with our final edition of the Hot D hierarchy, at least for season 2. Mills, go ahead and explain how this works.
All right, here's the deal. We had 30 characters on the board, and we rate them in the order which we enjoyed them and how they did in season 2. Did need to have some success, but we also did need to enjoy the character. We're going to kind of start from the bottom, go quickly through some of our least favorites, and then get into the good stuff. At the bottom, not a huge surprise, Hobart Hightower and Kat. That's Hugh the Hammer's wife there. Not a lot of screen time. In Yeah, just really didn't have a lot to do. Then a little bit of a surprise, Cregan Stark, but obviously he was only on screen for about 4 minutes, only really showed up in that first episode. So yeah, not great. Then we have Jason Lannister, didn't get to do much, just basically had the scene there kind of summoning Aemon, who's only on screen for about a minute and a half. And then we had the Cargill twins, who were again both awesome, but really were there only for the one scene. So it's more of a, a great scene. Characters really not there as much. So makes a lot of sense. Then we have Alan Hull, and then Rhaena, who was a little bit, then we have Gwaine, again, grew on me a little bit throughout the season. And then maybe the biggest surprise coming into the season, at 21, we have Otto Hightower. Jamie G, you had him at 20, I had him at 21. Just kind of a function of him being off the board and imprisoned, right? It's looking great for him, no matter how good he was in those first 3 episodes.
And that's really it. I mean, he just ended the season. He basically disappeared for the meat of the season. You didn't get one single shot, and then you're just left on this kind of cliffhanger where it looks like he's in jail. So we just didn't get enough of him. When we got him, he was outstanding, like he always is. Just didn't get enough of him for him to be higher.
I was surprised that we both had Alan Hull at 23. He got almost 12 minutes of screen time, but he kind of played the same note over and over until that final scene with Corlys, right? He was pretty much always just doing his thing, very stoic. You knew what his deal was. Good, but not as memorable. And unfortunately, his brother claimed a dragon, so that's, going to bump you up a little bit.
I think that's exactly it. I just don't see. I think we already kind of got our peak out of him with that moment with Corlys. Whereas I think with Adam, there's going to be more stuff to come, and I like his future a lot more than Alan. So
spot on, I think there. And then Rhaena, I guess downside for her is her plot could get cooler in the future, but kind of ended on a note where it didn't go on a high note, let's say, there in the finale. I've already mentioned Gwaine kind of on the come up. Brings us into our top 20. We have Tywin Lannister at 20. Jamie G, you were higher on him than me. You had him at 13. I am at 24. Kind of the reverse thing. His whole season was that one scene, or the couple of scenes there in Essos. They were awesome, but it was hard for me to put him above other characters, no matter how much I enjoyed those scenes. And I'm assuming that's pretty much the basis of why you pushed him on.
that absolutely, but I also enjoyed him on the council. He sat in. This was where he sat in with 2 separate leadership regimes, right? With Aemond and Aegon, and then deciding that it was going to be Aegon. Like he kind of, and he took a lot of a lot of crap being in that role as master of ships, given that there was the barricade and everything. So I liked him throughout this season, and it just, kind of reminded me of just that sharp strategic mind that Tyrion Lannister that we come to know from House of or Game of Thrones.
You call it House of Lannister, dude.
House of Lannister.
You get to be House of Baratheon, technically, if you want to put not too fine a point on it. At 19, we have our guy, Ulf the White. You have him at 22, I had him at 14. A lot of this for me is just, he was fun, right? I love the scenes of him in the tavern. His claiming scene was kind of weak, but the scene of him flying over King's Landing and just kind of having the pure joy, and then just him just immediately trying to live his best life once he gets into Dragonstone, feet on the table, drinking ale as fast as they can bring him to him, just down in Flagons. Just a good time. It reminded me a little bit of what if Bronn just wasn't smooth? What if Bronn just had no game? That's kind of who Ulf is, right? Obviously Bronn's a better fighter, but Ulf has a dragon, so I'll say that cancels each other out. Ulf has fun like Bronn would, but he's just not nearly as damn smooth.
Well, but he's better with word. Bronn was hilarious. Ulf doesn't quite have the same vernacular, but I can see the comparison. I can
vibe. I'm going
that.
for vibe, kind of. Bronn brought the fun, right? Bronn was always fun when he showed up in a scene. Even when he had to kill someone, it'd be kind of fun. That was just, again, Jerome Flynn just had so much, just charisma and everything. I believe the man actually was a pop star before being on Game of Thrones. I don't know if the actor who plays Ulf is fortunate enough to be a pop star. Could be a gift and a curse. Who knows? We have a tie between 2 ladies at 17, Baela Targaryen, Alice Rivers. You had Baela at 19, I had her at 16. Love Baela. Give her more to do, please. That's it.
That was my only complaint. We just didn't see enough of her. When she was there, she killed. We just didn't get enough of her.
Yeah, she had a couple of great scenes with Jace. Dragon scenes were great, but she'd go to the small council and she'd be on screen, but she would really get hardly any lines. She'd just be kind of chilling. So just not enough to do here. And then Alice Rivers, this is a character from the books. You had her at 17, I had her at 18. In the books, we know she exists. Everything else is basically rumor, and we don't even get a lot of that. So I had no idea this was coming, where it's going, anything like that. I found it interesting, but really she was just kind of the conduit for Damon, although she did get a couple cool moments like the owl flying on her arm and just some of her, her conversations with Damon were great. But overall, she was just kind of like, not like the generic wood switch woman, but not too far off. They didn't really define her character, her motives or something. I'll be curious to see if she shows back up, what her role is going forward. Any thoughts on Alice Rivers?
My only thing with this was the show spent a lot of time on her. It got more intriguing every time, but we didn't really get any kind of finality or answer. And we got teased with a couple of things with, what happened with Tully and like, so, we kind of got teased with a couple things. She gets that incredible scene with Damon at the end. And every time we saw her, it was more intrigued, but I just wanted to either get to know what's going on with her or some sort of confirmation that she's going to be around in the future. And we got we didn't get either of those things. So that was really my only complaint. I enjoyed her though. I thought you needed something. They decided to go all in with Damon's journey, his psychological psychedelic thriller, as I like to call it in Harrenhal, when things get real bad. And they got bad for him, and he came out of it on the other side better off, which is usually what happens in these things. But it was pretty gnarly for him. But because they decided to do that and take virtually the entire season to do that for him, you needed to have somebody like her. So I think she was pretty valuable.
Yeah, not bad. Only on screen for about 11 minutes. I think she made good use of her time. At 16, we have Adam of Hull. You had him at 16, I had him at 17. Good enough, right? Didn't get a lot to do. He had kind of that one big scene with Alan in their house, and then didn't get anything till he got the dragon. But I thought that was real good, and especially his scene to open the next episode on the beach with Rhaenyra, with the dragons in the background. That scene was phenomenal. Liked them all overall. Nice potential. The actor did a really good job. So that's definitely solid top 20.
Absolutely, man. And I think the other thing with him too is you're excited about his future. Out of all the incoming new dragon riders, I think he excites me the most in terms of the role and the value he could bring to Rhaenyra. And I think he's the one that's been, pledging his loyalty to her probably the best. So I think I put him there for those reasons too. Excited about his future. Thought he did real well with what he was given this season.
Yeah, I mean, the main problem is he doesn't have a name as cool as Hugh the Hammer, but we're not
He doesn't
quite to him yet, because at 50, we have Grandmaster Orwell. You had him at 12, I had him at 20. Really like Orwell. I thought he got some good moments. I wish we saw more stuff. I like how he was arranging for all the sneaking in and out. Elsa just keeps asking for favors and he's pulling it off. I'm curious if he has something going on with Larry Strong or something like that. Definitely a fairly main character in the book, so I'm not going to say too much, but definitely enjoyed him. Looking back on it, I'd like to maybe have bumped him up a couple spots. I think he just got caught in a numbers game for me. What about Orwell stuck out for you to put him at 12?
I just thought that he was a voice of good reason throughout the entire season. And he came through for kind of the OGs, right? He came through for Alicent. He came through for did the right thing with Aegon. I just thought I really enjoyed him. I'm with you. I like kind of this, learning more. Like some of my favorite parts of Sam's journey and Game of Thrones was when he went and learned how to become a maester and all that, right? And it's like seeing all the stuff they do I like that kind of angle of it. We didn't get a lot of it with him, but I thought he was just such a great voice of reason, and he kind of calmed all the craziness going on in King's Landing. He was kind of that calming force. And so, I thought he did a great job.
I agree with all of that. Just alluded to it. At 14, we have Hugh Hammer. Hugh the Hammer. Both had him at 15. I think it's just a function of he got a little bit more screen time on screen for about 15 minutes. And dude had the good charisma, right? He's kind of like a Game of Thrones Chris Hemsworth or something like that. And he played it, little bit of emotional sensitivity in the scenes with his wife. You obviously feel bad he lost his daughter, but his claiming scene was just absolutely spectacular. And then he seemed to be fairly respectful afterwards, so that gave him a couple of character points in my book. So I'm a pretty big fan of the Hammer. How about yourself?
I'm really excited about the Hammer. I love that the way he claimed the dragon to me was absolutely fantastic. The other thing I really like about this is for once HBO did the right thing where we didn't have to go through and see his daughter die. I don't need to see any kids die. I don't need to see any animals die. I could do without the incest. Come on, HBO, you don't need these things. I'm glad they made the right call and we didn't have to see that. It was just kind of like, all right, that happened. I'm excited about Hugh the Hammer. I think he respects the game. He respects the legacy, so to speak, and is honored to be in this position. But I want to see that rage. I want, that shot of him screaming as he's claiming, this one of the scariest dragons there is. Really excited about Hugh the Hammer. I thought it was cool. They kept going to him, and I mentioned that in last week on our last episode. I'm glad it paid off. They kept going to him throughout the season. I'm glad it paid off.
It wasn't better than Predator, but it was very Predator-esque. So I always appreciate anything that reminds me of Predator. We're getting closer here. We have a tie at number 12. First, we have Allison Hightower. You had her at 14. I had her at 9. And let's be honest here. The actress did a fantastic job. I don't mind Allison, but she might be the least valuable player. She had the second most screen time this season. A shade over an hour and 9 minutes on screen. In just not a lot of impact, right? It feels really bad. Her only thing that really happened was she's like, man, I did a really bad job of raising my sons.
Pretty much. And the crazy thing about it is that she's in such a weird position where she doesn't even want anything anymore. She just wants to be alone out in the world, unknown to the rest of the universe, right? And so she's lost basically all her oomph, so to speak. And that's where I put her. She's phenomenal. The show needs her. I hope they don't, I hope we see her again. She's such a great actress, and she plays into the wedge of the demise of her family so well because she's the only one that seems to have any form of heart left and doing the right thing. So I think it's really important that she's there. But yeah, I mean, she's in such a bad position, man. I mean, at one point she started the season pretty high in the form of power. She left the season without any.
She pretty much just put up L's from the first episode on. She lost her grandson and it just went downhill. Think about everything she tried basically failed. That's just it's a lousy way to be. So, who knows? I don't want to say anything about what could happen going forward other than I am like 99% positive she will be in season 3. And tied at number 12, our guy, Sir Simon Strong, probably more my guy than yours. You had him at 8 I had him at 5. Here's the deal. When I started doing these, it's hard to rank all these characters, so I made a decision. First thing I did, Sir Simon Strong at number 5. I said, this is a top 5 man. I enjoyed him every time he was on the screen this season, showed up in a bunch of episodes, got some laughs, seemed like a decent enough human being. I just decided I'm putting him at 5 and everything is going to flow downhill from there. So that was the first thing I did when I made my ranking. So I will stand by my Strong man. Jamie G, 18 probably seems about right given his screen time and everything like that. So I'm not going to give you too much shit for it. It's just that's my guy.
He's great, dude. I love him. Don't get me wrong. He's awesome. Absolutely love the guy. I just wanted more of him. His little moments were great. I wish he was on Rhaenyra's council and we saw him more.
It reminds me kind of like, what if Varys just hung out in the background and didn't want to be involved with anything, kind of like just that kind of energy, right? Like, oh, hello, how are you? Just kind of like seemingly decent to everyone up front, but just rolling with the tide. Like, just kind of keep going with, all right, who's gonna not kill me? I like you. You're not gonna kill me. You're a good one. So that's my guy, Simon Strong. At number 11, we have Helena. You had her at 10. I had her at 12, and she might be kind of the running time MVP. Only on screen for a little bit over 15 minutes. You had her at 10. I had her at 12. Almost same thing as Bela, just more Helena, please.
Yeah, I loved her. And I thought they did a good job early in the season, kind of giving her, she's a little bit of kind of predicting the future kind of stuff. I thought that was really cool with the cheese thing, with the rat. And then that really paid off in that last episode. I think the actress does a great job because at times she's so stoic and just doesn't seem like she really knows what's going on. But I think it's mostly because she knows exactly what's going on and she's like almost can't allow herself to have any feeling or emotion about it. It's kind of a crazy thing. I'm really curious about Helena. I'd love to see more of her. I think we're going to, given the way the season ended. She kind of showed up in a big way. So yeah, she's great, dude. I mean, curious to see what they do with her going forward.
Some standout scenes. Obviously, the one from the season premiere with her son. Yeah, the
Yeah.
couple of times she's caught outside in the city, the scene there from the finale with Aemond, definitely some bangers in there. And I'll just say that what's happening with her isn't straight from the books, but as far as like the vibe goes and the character, she is, when I read the books, almost exactly how I pictured Helena. So I think that is
That's awesome.
just an outstanding portrayal. You know, it's when you read a book or something, and you see it on screen, you kind of, when it matches, that's what's so great. I think that's what made like the Lord of the Rings movies work so well for people, is like the characters were just kind of how you picture them. It comes down to voice too. It's not even just all look. It's just sometimes even just a vibe, and she just absolutely nails the vibe. And at number 10, we have a man who couldn't get there with vibes, so he got himself a haircut. Sir Kristen Cole. You had him at 9, I had him at 11. Crazy character arc, right? He goes from basically a guy just doing everything to get revenge against the woman who spited him to now being almost like the crazy battlefield philosopher guy, right? It's just a really,
Yeah, it really is.
weird arc, but I'm there for it.
Dude, I like this version of Cole a lot better. I mean, think about what happened in just 8 episodes to this guy. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And now he has like this. He's like the guy who like, he's been to like 400 dead shows, so now he has like the profound wisdom that like no one else has, man. But it's like that way in the battlefield, though, right? Like he's seen the dragons dance, so like he's pretty much like, now he gets it, dude. Like nothing really matters except the dragons, because they're gonna do whatever they want. We're nothing,
Yeah, I did not expect like, introspective Kristen Cole to be on the, my bingo card there. But towards the end, like his conversation with Wayne was great. Even the scene of him at the end of 4 going up and seeing Aemon there and then looking at Aegon and Sunfire, and just kind of that shaking him and everything with Allison, just well done. And he got the titty tissue too. He got the boob napkin, whatever you want to call it.
He
So he
did.
got that going for him.
Yeah. Is that we should trademark that titty tissue? It's
Dude,
better than.
it's definitely out there, but it's probably not as cool as you think. It's probably a nursing product.
Dude, it's better than like the Jerry Seinfeld with the handkerchief that you blow your nose in. I mean, this is a better thing to get than somebody's.
Well, the key is that the handkerchief is good. You have nowhere to put the handkerchief after you blow your nose in it. That's the problem.
Right.
With the handkerchief. You got to put the snot rag back in your pocket then. That's not cool. Maybe that's what cargo shorts were for. Did we just figure out what the real purpose of cargo shorts is?
Yeah, why not just have portable, tissues that you just throw away? I don't know. I digress, Mills. I'm good.
Yeah, I think, but back in the day, though, I don't think Kleenex had come to King's Landing yet. That was still over in Essos. They know how to party over there. Moving even deeper into the top 10 at 9, we have Corliss. You had him at 6. I had him at 13. Love Corliss. Just kind of disappointing for me this season. Only on screen for a shade under 25 minutes. Even at the end, he's not even on his ship, and he's still rowing out to his ship. It just felt he basically existed this season to grieve for Rhaenys, and then, to have that kind of little scene with his bastards at the end and then move forward. Nothing wrong with that, but this is the goddamn sea snake. I just had higher hopes for him. So that's kind of why he was down a little bit for me, just because my expectations were higher.
Yeah, I think the show needs him. Him becoming the Hand, I think, was pretty profound. And like it really, once that happened, the pendulum started to swing. Not to say he's like it's because of him or whatever. It was just kind of the timing of it is when the pendulum started to swing, and he created that voice of reason that was needed, and his unwavering support, which is needed. Yeah, I want more of him too. I mean, we haven't really seen him do anything other than question his lineage and his heir and not be able to name one, lose his wife, and then decide to live his life for his wife in pursuit of putting Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne. So I mean, that's where we're at with him. But love the guy, want more.
All right. Well, we were pretty close there, but for number 8, you might as well call Bone Thugs because we are in harmony. We have Aegon Targaryen II. We both had him at 8. Actor, great job. Very cool makeup. Couple of great scenes early, but unfortunately, he's burned so much that he lost the sausage. So you got to knock him a little bit for the situation he's in. Maybe he's on a little bit of a come up there when Larry sneaks him out of King's Landing, at the end. So I think, definitely good enough to be in the top 5, but not to be in the top 10, but not the top 5. So I think 8 sounds about perfect. And I probably don't have to sell you too hard on that.
I don't think so. I really like where you kind of get left off with him because he's almost this forgotten thing that you don't really worry about. But I think that's going to be a big deal down the road. So, and just his cycle, right? Like his arc. We started this season, he was like cocky, arrogant, wanted revenge, all this stuff, right? And then where he gets at the end, and I think he's got this great quote, or what was the point in all this, anyways? And you see his arc. And I thought that was really cool too. Just a little shout out there for him. Actor was awesome, dude. He absolutely crushed in this role.
In a great job, right? Because coming into season 2, and especially at the beginning, you hated Aegon, right?
Oh
He
my
was
gosh.
approaching Joffrey level, and by the end, we have real sympathy for him, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Now that's a character arc, you know what I mean? I hate to, say that, but when you compare like that to what Corlys went through, even though Corlys lost his wife, I don't know, it just felt more profound. Maybe it takes, getting your, swadoosh, burned off on there or whatever, but
Let's hope it doesn't take that. It's got to be an easier way.
yeah, well, again, if they don't have Kleenex, I don't think they're up to the Wisdomator yet. So we'll have to we'll wait on that one. Moving on to almost the top 5 because we have a tie at 6. First up, we have Rhaenys. You had her at 11. I had her at 4. Yeah, about 17 and a half minutes of screen time, middle of the road for this season. But she just went out in such an epic fashion, and she was just so stoic about it, volunteering to go. I liked her giving advice to Rhaenyra before that. So, in knowing that we won't get a chance to rank her again, I had to go hard with it. So that's my 4.
You're not wrong. I'm not hating on you there at all, Mills. I think for me, just the fact that she died, I had to knock her down some. Her death was the most, this sounds weird, but I think it was the most beautiful death I've seen in a long time on any show. It was incredible. It was a scene, it was an episode that was edge of the seat. She was a big reason why. And then all the way leading up to that final gasp that the dragon took, and she just goes back. Unbelievable scene, dude. So powerful. But I've got her where I've got her just because she died. Like she died.
That's a hard one to get around. Even in in Game of Thrones, there's only been like 1 or 2 people who've gotten around that one so far. So it is pretty final. And in her case, it does seem to be really final. And I will say what would have been acceptable is for you to really not. We never got her funeral. Like that's how weird this
Right.
season was. Like we never actually got a funeral for Rhaenys. It feels like Corlys probably should have done that. So another thing I held slightly against him. And tied with Rhaenys at 6, we have Mysaria. You had her at 5, I had her at 10. I think you could probably go any which way with it. 10 seemed about right to me. I thought she had a good season. She's definitely on Team Black in the books, but her closeness to Rhaenyra is nowhere in the text. Perhaps it's implied in a way that I didn't read into it, but I really enjoyed the actress. I thought it was a good job. I made sense for the most part. The kiss thing will be a little weird if it never comes up again. Remember when Frenchie went to jail? But outside of that, I don't really have a problem with you putting her at 5, but 10 felt about right for me. Why'd she make your top 5?
Her going from forgotten to prisoner to the biggest voice in Rhaenyra's ear to me, I cannot ignore that. And let's face it, she was 2 for 2. She was aces, bro. She was aces on all of her moves so far this season. They all worked. They all were like huge, critically important for Rhaenyra's rise, or attempted rise in this war. So I loved her, dude. I thought that she played such an important role, and without that, I don't know that Rhaenyra. I think Rhaenyra needs it, and because of that, I have to put her as high as I do, and she proved it, man. I mean, she proved her loyalty. The thing I love about it most is you still don't know for sure if it's 100% or if she's playing some sort of angle, and that's what we love about this show and these characters. But to me, man, she played such an important role here.
Yeah, what you love about her is her efficiency. You know what I mean? She's like the NBA player. She can hit from 3. She can defend out on the wing. She can guard multiple positions. So, she's a very effective and versatile teammate to have. So definitely going to be an asset for Rhaenyra. Breaking into our top 5 at number 5, we have Jace. We both had him at 7. little bit of an up and down season for him, but the highs were very high, including him bringing the phrase over. I really liked that one. And I also thought he had some really nice conversations. I even liked his interaction with Ulf, a couple good scenes with Venera, a couple of good scenes with Bela. Kind of, yeah, I didn't like the whininess of it too much, but overall, thought the actor did a great job and he had some really, the high highs were enough to overlook some of the lows. How about yourself on where are you at on Jace?
Yeah, I think so too. I thought there was a couple of really good moments there. Him going out and doing diplomacy and trying to gain pledges, I think was some of the best stuff that we saw. His negotiation tactics, him going to the wall, him going to, I thought that was awesome, dude. I loved him negotiating with other houses and getting their commitment, so to speak. And so that was some of the coolest stuff we saw out of him ever, and it gets me really excited about his character going forward.
All right, I think that's a good take. At number 4, we have Larry Strong. You had him at 4, I had him at 6. Another highly efficient player here, clocked only 23 minutes of screen time. But he's smart, right? I don't know that he necessarily came up, but he kind of avoided the pitfalls maybe of he's always one step ahead, right? Like as the regimes have kept changing, he's always kind of the first one out the door. He senses the tide changing, the wind shifting. So I think that's where his real skill is. Plus, all of Harrenhal's gold that he has stashed elsewhere. So he's got Aegon, he's got some gold, he's got a plan, he's got some whisperers. Pretty damn solid, I think. How about Larry's, man? Any other thoughts?
Dude, again, he finds a way. He had moments this season where it looked like he was going to be in a position of power, and he became master of whisperers. And then all that was taken away from him, and he realized very quickly he's in a position of weakness, and he should be watching his back. And then he pivots and navigates from that. And now he's in a position of power where he has the king trusting him, going on a solo journey, escaping and following this plan. And it's a plan that you can believe in because of the points you made with got the coin because he screwed out Harrenhal. He's just a real interesting character, and I think he's in a really good spot going forward in terms of him. He knows how to find a way for him.
He is like life in Jurassic Park. He will find a way. So let me ask you this. Let's say Aaron Aegon too sets up shop like I am the true king. He starts building out his small council, and Larry, he wants to be his right-hand guy. Is he going to make him his hand or his foot?
He should make him his foot.
He should get a foot pin. It'd be really cool. It looked like the little thing in Mario where you get the little the boot with the wings, the Icarus shine or whatever. I always like that one. That was a cool Mario suit.
Yep. Club foot, dude. Isn't that a
That's where that's Shredder's Club where all the
Ninja
Foot Clan
Turtles?
hangs out, dude.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Foot
the Foot
Clan.
Clan. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
them Shredder's boys, dude.
Yeah, them Shredders.
Yeah, they hang
boys.
out at Club Foot, dude.
Club Foot.
Co-founded with Larry Foot, so it's a good place.
Yeah.
Spelled Foot with an E though. So when you look it up, make sure you know that. And breaking into our top 3, at number 3, we have Daemon Targaryen. You had him at 2, I had him at 3. Let's be honest here. Not what I expected from Daemon this season.
No.
At all. It definitely came out of left field. This is not in the books. His time at Harrenhal is somewhat shrouded in confusion or secrecy, or just people don't really know because of the nature of the way Fire and Blood is written. One of the best parts about Harrenhal was it gave us a chance to get those cameos from Paddy Considine and Millie Alcock, neither of which I knew was coming. And I thought both were great and added something to the plot. So in the end, I guess the juice was worth the squeeze, especially because it brought us my guy, Sir Simon Strong. What do you think, Jamie G? I think a lot of people were really down on Daemon. And, he might have been down until late in the fourth quarter, but I think he pulled off the comeback, did he not?
Oh, dude, 100%. And this was a weird thing. And I think maybe, give the writers a little bit of credit here. Maybe they looked at this and said, hey, this was something in the book that wasn't really explored. We think it would be really cool to go to this place and explore it. And they did, for better or worse, right? And you can like it, you can hate it, you can be indifferent. I think it worked given what we got out of it. It was cool to see this kind of I called it like a therapy retreat for Damon, and it was in a lot of ways. It was like he had to go drink the ayahuasca, go through his thing, and then come out of it on the other side and get better. And that's what it really felt like for a while here, facing his own demons, seeing crazy shit, um, not believing it, but then eventually believing it. Like a lot of that, and I think it paid off, man. Given the way that rounded at the end, both the scene where he's seeing everything, but then also the ultimate bending of the knee, which was just so freaking cool, man.
That is such a great moment. I was going to ask, do you think we are biased at all because it's the one storyline that kind of came to a close and what wound up being the finale? You know what I mean? It's the only one that really kind of closed off, right?
It really is when you think about it. We didn't really get any form of finality or just anything on any other storyline. All of them are wide ass open, except we know now where Damon is. And that's pretty cool. Maybe we are a little bit biased because of that,
Doesn't
but
matter.
rightfully
No, I
so.
think it was great overall. And let me ask you this. Do you think when they were sitting down to write this again, like you said, not in the books, do you think that they started out with the idea he would have a vision about the events of Game of Thrones? Or do you think that they started with the idea of him kind of flashing back and then landed on that as kind of the final way he kind of comes over to Rhaenyra ultimately?
I think they knew it had to be something. If they were gonna something big, right? And I personally like that they decided to tie that in. I think it was the right choice, but I think they knew they had to have something. You can't take this guy who we've been shown and we believe that he knows he's the right one. It's his, and then all of a sudden he just has a change of heart without something major happening. So I think they probably knew it had to be something big, and then as it went on, they probably settled on that. But I think it was the right call, whether they immediately knew it or they got there, halfway through or whatever.
Yeah, I have to give them credit because they had to make something up, really. There's just not in the books, if I'm remembering correctly, Damon, it's more or less Damon goes to Harrenhal and he gets the Riverlands on his side. There's not really much else. Maybe a couple paragraphs of stuff about the Tullys or whatever, but for the most part, it just kind of happens. So I think they did a really good job with that. At number 2, we have One Eye, Aemon Targaryen. You had him at 3, I had him at 1. And let me ask you this before I try to say why I had him at 1. Rhaenyra had the most screen time with about an hour and 45 minutes. How much screen time do you think Aemon Targaryen had this season?
I'm gonna say under 30 minutes.
You probably knew because I asked me at 27 and change, 27:20. So he was incredibly efficient with that less than a half hour, right? He had less than a third of Rhaenyra's screen time, but he was always a menace, right? He's our Freddy or our Jason or whatever. He's always there, and it gets a little one note, but dude definitely just has that kind of gravitas. I mean, he even hung dong to show dominance. He's pretty much done it all. Burning a town to assert dominance is not great, but he still is in control of Vagar. He's currently the king regent, and he's in
Prince
well,
Regent.
he's tell him that he's Prince Regent, like Damon's king consort. That's it's especially now that Aegon has fled, right? So
Right.
I think that's fair. So I that's why he's 1, but I think you could split hairs with pretty much the top 3. So
Yeah, I just think it's his position at the end of the season that had me land him where I did. But yeah, I mean, he's still a menace, dude. He's still a problem for sure.
if Damon and Rhaenyra are truly united, like the full Wu-Tang, then they would be at 1 above him, is how I look at it. I think individually he is still probably bigger than either of them on their own, but if they truly were united, I would put him, behind that unit, so to speak. And then obviously Rhaenyra is at 1 for us. You had her at 1. I had her at 2. I think I pretty much explained that with my Aemond take. Get led in screen time by a lot, almost an hour and 45 minutes. Next closest was Alicent at an hour and 9 minutes. So was it worth it? I mean, I thought obviously the actress did great. Rhaenyra had quite a bit to do. It was a lot of talking in rooms, but that's certainly a part of the show that we've liked going back to Game of Thrones. She had decent movement, I guess, on most fronts, but maybe not quite as much as you like. But that's by design again, because they can't send her out on a dragon, right? So I don't know, Jamie G. What's your main takeaway from Rhaenyra? What solidified her as number 1 for you?
even though she got an hour plus, she handled it well, dude. She held her own. I love the stages and the realism you get from her character. There's times where she feels absolutely weak, like everything's gonna fall apart, and she doesn't even know what she's doing. And there's other times where and you feel that, and then there's other times where she feels like she is absolutely doing the right thing and she's on track and she's well thought about why she is. And dude, you feel that. Her range of emotions this season, especially, but last season too, were outstanding, from losing her child to losing her husband to having all these questions about what she's doing and if it's the right thing or not. I just thought it was awesome. Her attempting to try to risking her own life to try to, make it so millions don't have to die. I thought that was awesome. There's just a lot with her that I think is just so cool. You can't have the show without her, man. You really can't.
And she seems authentic. I think that's the
For
main part
sure.
of it for me, is that you believe it, and that's why she brings Mysaria over, and I think why some of the lords who stuck to her side stick with her, because they truly do believe in her, even if they don't necessarily like the idea that, they don't view woman as being an equal sex or gender, or whatever way you want to put it. And that's a lot to ask, especially in this day and age, and how politicized it is. And so they had to walk a bit of a fine line here. And I thought Rhaenyra got everything she earned, right? Like, even putting up with the boy Celtigar until she just finally smacks him, like, yo, all right, this is on me now. I let this go too far. We're going to snap things back a little bit. Like, I truly believe that I am doing this. And I think that's a big function of Miss Area, is to tell her that she is doing the right thing. She's trying to, look at the bigger picture, even if it means killing some people. Hopefully that should, you kill a few to save the many, kind of deal. So that can get very tricky, don't get me wrong, but it seems like her heart and intentions are in the right place. And she has some steel, right? During the dragon seed bit, she locked him in and watched him die. Like, she made the decision, the hard decision, and she stuck with it, and she kind of expressed that to Jace too. That's part of the thing with leading. You have to make those tough decisions. So I think they did a good job of illustrating most of that. So yeah, and right there, I think you can kind of quibble however you want with, Damon, Aemon, and Rhaenyra in the top three, but I think it's pretty much Aemon and, they're all right there, really. But I think Rhaenyra is. I agree with why you put her at one. She just doesn't have Vagar,
Yeah, that's true.
and she's not a psychopath, which might actually work against her.
That's true too. She might actually play by the rules, and that might work against her. Well, let's flow right from that hot D hierarchy into our season MVPs. Mills, go ahead and remind us who you had as your episode MVPs, and then give us your season MVP, because you're the real MVP.
I hope I am. Starting from the first episode through the eighth, I had Jace, Otto, Rhaenyra, Rhaenys, Jace, Mysaria, Rhaenyra, and Thailand. So that means Jace and Rhaenyra each took it home twice. Otto, Rhaenys, Mysaria, Thailand were one-time winners. I guess I probably have to go with the chalk here and take Rhaenyra. I really wanted to go with Sir Simon Strong, but I can't really go there. When you put it all together, she took home 2 episode MVPs. She was in my top three as far as it, number two there for the hot D hierarchy. So I'm putting Aemon above her still as far as the power rankings because of the Vagar factor. But if you're just looking at this season, I think despite losing Melees and Rhaenys, she managed to gain power by the end of the season. Really enjoyed her all the way out through, despite being on screen a lot more than any other character. So I'm going to eat the chalk, go with Rhaenyra as my season MVP. Jamie G, you had Damon, Otto, Rhaenyra, Rhaenys, Jace, Mysaria, Rhaenyra, and Damon. So, like I had on my end, you had Rhaenyra taking it home twice. Damon took it home twice for you as well. And Otto, Rhaenys, Jace, and Mysaria each took home your episodic MVP once. Who is your season 2 overall MVP?
Is that chalk served with seaweed? Because I am also going to eat it. I have to, for all the reasons we just talked about. I know that's boring to some people and it's not sexy. And if you want me to give you a reason why it should be Damon or someone else, I can. But I have to go with Rhaenyra here. I mean, for all the reasons that we laid out, she was fantastic. She looked like it was over, like she didn't stand a chance. Now she's in a position where she's got the hand. I love the journey this season. I cannot wait to see it. She's there, man. She's my MVP.
So shout out Rhaenyra, you are the unanimous MVP. So technically, you the real MVP.
She really is. Well, we've been spending a lot of time talking about what we like Yeah, rightfully so. This is one of our favorite shows. That being said, though, this was not a perfect season. In fact, it was far from it. I guess the 72 Dolphins can go ahead and pop that champagne once again. Mills, outside of the way it ended, what was your biggest complaint about season two?
I would really like to cheat and go, well, there was only 8 episodes instead of 10. Wasn't a big fan of losing Otto and Rainey's so early. I understand from a book standpoint why that probably had to happen, but those were two of the characters I really enjoyed. I wish Corliss had a little bit more to do. So I think it does come down to some balancing out of the screen time a little bit, that it was so heavily tilted towards Alicent, Damon, and Rhaenyra. I wish we'd gotten a little bit more from some of these side characters, especially because we saw when they got a chance, they really did shine. And I wish they had just done a little bit better with, they're doing something different from the books with Reyna and that wild dragon there. I really didn't like the way they teased that in the final episode. I just thought that was very inelegantly done and seemed kind of jammed in for a weird reason. And I'm also worried that if they're really going to have 8 episodes for next season, think about what just happened. You're supposed to have 10 in 2. So now you took 2 episodes from season 2 and shoved it into season 3. So that means the first 2 episodes of season 3 are now the last 2 episodes of season 2. And if they're ending at 8, that means you're only going to get over the first 6 episodes of season 3. So I think they're going to really have to do some work narratively here, or just commit to that 5th season. And it is what it is. And we're going to be here for a decade. So I don't know. It feels fairly negative. How about yourself, man? Give us a non-finale related negative.
Yeah, it does seem fairly negative. I'll say just ultimately just not delivering enough action. I think that there was a lot of setup, almost too much setup. And we just didn't get the action outside of episode 4 that any of us really wanted. And I know that it can't be, guns blazing, sword swinging, dragons fire breathing, the whole, but we needed some of it. And we just didn't get it at all. I mean, after all, this is war, right? We're talking about the Targaryen Civil War. I understand it could be a Cold War, right? And there's ways to do that where that's cool. It just didn't deliver that. Outside of that, some of the stuff that they did was just like it didn't pay off, right? Like they spent time on certain things where it was just like, okay, certain characters and stuff, we just didn't get enough of them. But then we had to see them at the end. You mentioned Raina. I thought that was a great example. We barely got any of her at all, and then they go through this whole thing in the last episode, pointing out how ill-advised this whole thing was. She's freezing, she had no water, no food, and then all of a sudden she just stumbles on just stuff like that. I think just didn't work. But ultimately, for me, Mills, it was I just needed just one more bit of action. I think I would have satisfied me, but it was just not enough, man, not enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, if what I thought was going to happen in episode 9, that really would have, I think, melted your face. And I agree with you there. I think there were some narrative shortcuts taken, especially with when they make it a point to be like, every ship is being searched now because people keep sneaking into places, and then everyone just continues to keep sneaking into everywhere. All right, I'll buy the one time. Like Damon already snuck in, and then Rhaenyra sneaks into the set there to see Alicent. But then Alicent sneaking out through like the double blockade to get to Dragonstone, it just pushed it a little bit too far. You know what I mean? Like you have to at least keep some form of consistency there. And that was a bad reminder of what happened with travel time in Game of Thrones. You went from it taking, months to travel, realistically so in the early seasons, to the end, it was like fast travel had been enabled in a video game. And I don't want them to get lazy narratively.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's a fair point, dude. I mean, it was like they just needed to get those two on the same on screen together.
Oh, that's pretty much what the
But
creators have
all
said.
else be damned on how they did it, and it just kind of
Yep, that's yes, based on the interviews I have read. Yep, that they view that they are the central relationship to the show. So of course they have to meet once in a while, right? Lex Luthor and Superman eventually have to get in a room, and so somehow that means that they're not. There are always rules to it, and I get it. I understand what goes into it, but you gave a lot of screen time to that, and I just think spreading out a little bit more would have been beneficial, especially with the shorter run time as far as the 8 episodes as opposed to the 10.
Well, enough with all the negativity. Let's have some fun by counting down our favorite quotes from season two. Mills, I think a few of these characters enjoy talking even more than we do. How do we arrive at our list of top quotes?
Very, very painstakingly, and by that I mean it was a giant pain in the ass. We started out with 122 quotes and went through various cullings and rankings and removals and reducings until we arrived at roughly our top 10. But we're going to have a few honorable mentions here. All right, let's start with some honorable mentions, mostly stuff that we had in our top 5 individually that didn't make it into the overall top 10. All right, Jamie G, this was your number 5. I had it way down there. I think just kind of because I was down on this scene a little bit overall, and it's from the scene from the finale where Alicent visits Rhaenyra at Dragonstone.
I have neither weapon nor armor. My life itself is forfeit. I cast myself on the mercy of a friend who once loved me.
History will paint you a villain. A cold queen, grasping for power and then defeated.
Let them think what they must. I am at last myself, with no ambition greater than to walk where I please and to breathe the open air. To die unremarked and unnoticed. And be free.
Kind of profound. Is that why you went with it, Jamie G? Just because that was kind of the culmination of Alicent's character arc this season, basically?
It just parallels so nicely into this whole obsession over the crown. And when you see what that can do to somebody and their family, and then it's the exact opposite desire. And I just think there's something about that with this. If, heavy is the crown, right? And so I just think I think this just is such a nice kind of yin to the yang of like what the crown can do to you, your soul, your heart, your family, everything negatively. This is where you end up sometimes, right? She's on the exact opposite end of anything, wanting power, wanting her family to be okay. She's done with everything now. Like that's a far place for Alicent to get to.
Yeah, it is definitely not next door, to say the least. Jamie G, the next one is a quote that didn't make the final rankings for you. I had it all the way at 4, and this is Kristen Cole, just pretty simply saying,
or perhaps all men are corrupt, and true honor is a mist that melts in the morning.
This is a nice callback to earlier in the season where, Alicent asked him about his honor to just kind of disappear with the morning sun or whatever. And here he's admitting it, right? He has just accepted. This is just full on Kristen Cole. He has seen some shit now. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's just reached that point. Like, it's not really just inner vision. He doesn't really know anything except he's probably going to die because of a dragon or because of the effects of a dragon, one way or the other, be it at the, fire or just general rampage. He's in trouble, and he just looks like a man who's accepted his fate. And I like this because he's like, what is honor at this point, right? That was his whole thing, these guys and their oaths and everything. So I thought that was pretty profound, despite being, very concise.
It is. I think it just got caught up in a little bit of a numbers game. There was a lot of great, honestly, we should probably be doing a top 100. We just didn't have time to do that for y'all. But it was just, I think, a numbers game for me.
Realistically, we'd have to do the top 100 3 times and then average our results together and then average those results together, because it's so much picking and choosing. Even after I did it, I went back through and did a couple of rearranges, and it's really tough. There's a lot of good stuff here. And for instance, JBG, you missed my number 1 quote, didn't make the final tabulation for you. And this is, of course, a little bit of an homage to Airplane, but why not?
We march on King's Landing and take the throne.
The throne?
It's a big chair made of swords.
That's not important right now.
I don't care, dude. I got a goddamn airplane gag
dude.
in Game of Thrones, in House of the Dragon. A+, dude. Just A+. That's it. You can't beat it.
I mean, look, dude, I'm not mad at you for it, bro.
You do
That's
not get a lot
right
of
up your alley.
general, literal, laugh out loud moments, and I full on snorted. Like, good old Snortsky, just
Got a Snarksky going.
Guffall, whatever you want to call it. Like, Al Bundy would have burst his pants because his hand was out there, and he just laughed so hard it would just pop that thing right up.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Dude, full on joined. And I feel bad because your number 2 quote I had at 57 because it was just kind of simple. This is from episode 5, Rhaenyra saying,
"Shall I fight for my birthright, or shall I wait here until we are all destroyed?"
Yeah, it's clear, concise. It's the mission statement of the season, but I feel like she said that thing a couple of times.
Yeah, I just think that one was the one that got through to me the most.
That was a poster quote, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's a to me that was kind of the banner for the season. She coming to grips with it,
Yeah, finally doing what she has to do. And then finally, right before we get into the top 10, just because I feel bad about this, because I thought it was going to work into my moments more, so I downgrade it. But this is just Tyland Lannister just asking Charcro Lohar,
how many words do you have?
Yeah,
you had that at 10, I had it at 36. I was more about just putting that whole moment pretty highly because there are a couple of good quotes from it. So that's kind of the way I chose to go about grading it, but I have no problem with you putting it 10. So
it was official. To me, it was hilarious and added some humor to it. Was a bright spot in an episode that needed it.
Breaking into our top 10 at number 10, we have a quote from Aemon in episode 6.
Do you take me for a fool?
On the contrary, my prince.
I've little patience for the self-important, Lord Larys, and even less for flatterers and lickspittles.
Jamie G, you had it 13, I had it 31. It's the lickspittles. I won't argue with it. I went with a different lickspittles quote that didn't make it, but so I'm there for it. So I don't really have any problem with that at number 10. I think that's fun.
You got to have a lickspittle in there, dude. I mean, it's lickspittle.
And at number 9, this is from episode 7. It's Viserys in one of his visions with Daemon when he tells him,
all that pain it caused. It crushes whoever wears it. You always wanted it, Daemon. Do you want it still?
You had this at 1. I had it at 34. Again, I had a similar quote from Alice Rivers, kind of the same kind of thing about the burden. So same concept. You just happened to go with this one, and I went with a different Viserys, a little bit higher up. So a bit of a numbers game, but this was your number 1, and very important, right? Very crucial to Daemon's whole Harrenhal arc.
Yes, which ultimately led to one of my favorite moments. Like and it's just so true. And I love the fact that we got Paddy Considine, who was unbelievable in season 1, back for this, and we got him in full, decay. This was profound, and it was the first time this season I thought maybe, just maybe, there would be hope for Daemon after all. And it was pretty awesome stuff, dude. And it's just so true. And I think it's just it basically defines the entire Game of Thrones universe, honestly, when you really think about this quote. It really does. And that's pretty awesome.
I give you credit. You know how to do a segue into yourself, because at number 8, we have a quote from Alice Rivers in episode 6, where she says,
Viserys never wanted it himself, if you recall. It came to him, and he did his best. It's not a prize to be won, but a burden to bear.
You had this at 4, I had it at 30. Same kind of thing. I have a different quote. Like, you happen to kind of latch onto these two for this theme, and I just happen to latch onto a different quote that means the same thing thematically. So yep. I'm assuming kind of basically the same analysis you gave for the Viserys quote, right? It's all about putting this on Daemon. Like, is this really what you want, dude? Like, really?
Yeah. Yes.
Easy peasy. At number 7, we got a Larry Strong classic from episode 6.
The enemy without may be fought with swords. The enemy within is more insidious.
You had it at 9. I had it at 21. Not perfect, just sounds cool and always true, right? You can always say the enemy within is more insidious, and it can basically mean almost anything within your corporation, within yourself, within your sports team, whatever you want, but it's not necessarily untrue. It goes all the way back to Machiavelli.
Dude, 100%. And it sounded cool. And the way Larys speaks is just, him saying insidious is just like, I don't know, man. That could be a sport, It's too many times.
Yeah, you feel bad that they already have an Insidious franchise going for the movies, or maybe he can reboot that or something like that. Perhaps you just
the British version.
Insidious. Well, I haven't seen, like Eric Sermon, the generic version. We'll see what they make. I don't know if it's American or not. I have not checked that one out. And you know what else is very cool? High Valerian. At number 6, we have a quote that's technically in High Valyrian, so sorry if you are just listening and not watching because you won't have these subtitles.
Saldrizesi voskizi isi. Uepo Valirio setenon tolijor keso vihot montasmo isi. Volaro timtriti sitnin kiapot mentani sosi daor. The dragons are sacred. They are the last magic of old Valyria in this sad world. They are not playthings for the games of men. You had that 18, I had 10. That's a bit of a paraphrasing from an actual book quote, one of the few you get, and super awesome. I thought everything about the Dragon Keepers was super cool. I would totally watch that like adult animated anime spin-off cartoon.
Oh, dude, for sure. I thought that was awesome. And I loved that was important because she's getting ready to do something really bold. She comes in and immediately she's getting attacked by the Dragon Keepers. And it's like this big argument in High Valyrian. She's got all these people around her that don't know what they just said, and she just got to brush it off and roll with it. I thought it was really cool, but also profound. Like you don't really get a lot of the dragon worship or dragon keepers, and you see how they kind of worship the dragons. I think that's pretty cool because they are like this godlike creature. We get a lot of dragons, but we don't necessarily get kind of the nitty gritty of the keepers of the dragons and the sacred oaths that they take. And almost, I won't use the word religion, but almost kind of quasi spiritual stuff that takes place as they keep the dragons. Right. And plus the only way to communicate to a dragon is in High Valyrian.
Yeah, they are pretty much, I would call them a religious order or sector or whatever you want. I think it's a very fair
That's
way
probably fair
to define their relationship to the dragons or their belief in the dragons and the Targaryens. And that's why they're so pissed when the Targaryens are going to let other people try to ride. They're like, well, then you're not our gods anymore then. If anyone can do it, like it would literally shatter their belief system.
Yeah.
Should it happen. So very cool there. That brings us into the top 5. And we have a line from Baela in the finale.
Do you believe that you are the first noble heir who was not sired by his noble father? Such is the way of the world, Jace. And in resenting it, you only diminish yourself.
Jamie G, you had a 20, I had a 5. Love Baela. Great line. Speaking the truth. Baela is right? Like people are going to talk. Look at our current political climate. People just make shit up whether it's true or not, and it doesn't matter. People would probably say that about him anyways. What if he really was full-born Targaryen and didn't have the hair? It happens. Not all the time, but it happens once in a while.
Right. And just another great example of Baela spitting fact. We need more of her straight up. She's awesome. But yes, I thought that was kind of cool because it kind of calmed Jace, I think, a little bit. He needed to get over this. He was making kind of too big of a deal about it.
Yeah, and she is definitely not wrong. Trust me, there are.
Short of incest, there's no way to be 100% Targaryen, anyways. So, I guess we'll just say that.
Yeah. Let's. I don't really want to think about incest too much, to be perfectly honest.
I know. I'm sorry. The show doesn't. They have a way to make you think about it.
Yeah, right. I don't even want to know. They probably have a flow chart on a wall somewhere, and we are not going to do that. Instead, we're going to move on to our number 4. This is an exchange between Aegon and Otto in episode 2.
I will not be seen as weak.
You're already seen as weak, Aegon. A hasty coronation, a dragon escaping the pit. The people see an omen. They whisper in the streets. They say perhaps Rhaenyra should be queen.
And so you would name her monster, slayer of infants.
I would do more than that. A funeral progress. Let them see the child. Let them look upon the works of this pretender to the throne.
Jamie G, you had this at 7, I had it at 13. This is Otto at his best, right? Like he knocks down Aegon because he's all worried about how he appears in just being perceived as weak. And here's Otto being like, yep, my grandson just died. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take advantage of this.
Dude, he was right. Use the moment, use the tragedy to get something out of it. Otto at his best, man.
He is Otto. He is he's a guy. At number 3, we have an exchange between Rhaenyra and Daemon from the 2nd episode.
I think you used my words as an excuse to take your own revenge. To indulge the darkness you keep sheathed within you like a blade.
You think me some kind of monster?
Oh, I don't know what to think of you. I don't know what you are or who it is you serve.
Jamie G, you had this at 8. I had it at 7. And just indulge the darkness you keep sheathed within you like a blade. That's some writing right there. And Rhaenyra delivers it so perfectly. Again, shout out Emma Darcy just absolutely slaying it.
Yeah, dude, she's fantastic. I love this. And with their accent too. I couldn't say it and make it sound as good as she can, man. I'll give her that.
Not many can.
Not all accents are created equal, Mills. They're not.
Eh? At number 2, we have the exchange between Larry Strong and Aegon in the finale.
He flew to challenge her and was rebuffed. Fled in terror, from what I hear.
He deserves no less.
He has gone in fury to Sharp Point and laid waste to the whole of the town.
Fucking mad cunt. She really did it then.
I fear so.
So what was the fucking point in all this then?
Jamie G, you had this at 9 out of the 2. Surprised me a little bit that I was higher on you, but I enjoyed this dialogue because it was a misdirect in that you thought that Aegon was going to be really mad about Aemon burning down Sharppoint, but he's mad that Rhaenyra raised the Dragon Riders because right away he recognizes the fact that's going to devalue them as Targaryens and as leaders and, make them less than the gods they were perceived to be. So I'm just surprised you had it at 9. I'm guessing you're going to claim numbers game shenanigans.
I just had a couple other ones that I liked more, but this was great, and he's right. And it was kind of an interesting moment where you see that out of Aegon too, because he just everything's been taken from him, and now he has kind of this other way of looking at things, and he's right. What was the point in all of it?
Yeah, it winds up being way more profound than I thought it was going to be. That's why I wound up being so high. And the kind of combination of he took the weird thing from it, but then it was actually probably the more astute takeaway. Like he actually read a couple levels deep into it. Like he read a bluff into where the other player wasn't even smart to be running a bluffer, but this is Larry Strong, so might be bluffing the bluff of the bluff. So put on your poker hat because we are moving on to number 1. This is a Daemon quote from the finale. We both had it at number 3 overall.
You are the true queen, Rhaenyra. First of her name, protector of the realm. I am meant to serve you, and all of these with me, until death, or the end of our story.
Until death was good, or the end of our story hit the waterworks, kind of, right? Like just the music turns up, and Rajawati knows what the hell he's doing. Beautifully played show. You nailed that. Like you paid off Daemon's storyline somehow. That's the longest bet probably I would have taken all season that you were going to pay off all this crazy shit in Harrenhal, and you actually did it.
Yeah, the odds on that must have been wild, but they did. And it was the only thing they did, but they did.
That's all that really matters, dude. You got to pay it off, dude. And, you got to love the quotes here, despite being a little bit long-winded, kind of. You don't get some of the snappy stuff you get on something like a show like Sunny or The Boys or something, but they do profound really well.
Dude, they do. And the thing with Daemon was the way he, and again, Matt Smith here, man, just awesome. But the way he delivers this is just, that's part of it too, right? It's one thing to read it off a sheet of paper. It's another thing to see the delivery. And I just don't want to undersell that.
I don't know if you can.
Let's keep it moving with our favorite moments from season 2. We started out with 71 moments before we whittled it down to the very best, the creme de la creme, Mills. What are we working with here?
Apparently, we're working with the Whittler, who is a very, very D-level Batman villain. After a couple of rounds of ranking, reducing, culling, we got it down to what we're calling our top 10 favorite moments, but we might have a couple of honorable mentions. Right off, honorable mention, Jamie G, this was your number 2 moment, and this is Daemon having a vision of the show to come, of Game of Thrones. You had it to, I had it all the way down at 48 just because it felt like pandering a little bit. It was cool. It was Daemon's deciding moment, but I liked the vision with Viserys and the vision with the young Rhaenyra, where she was sewing the head back on a little bit better. So that's why I was down on that a little bit, but I get why you were pretty high on it. Was that pretty much it? Just the Game of Thrones tie over? Or do you think it was really the one that kind of sealed the deal for Daemon?
I think it was the whole thing. Yes, there was the Game of Thrones thing, but it was the whole, not the ceremony, so to speak, but the whole act of him going out there, the tree bleeding, the touching, and just what he saw. To me, it just kind of finally felt like we got the payoff with Damon and finally felt like, oh, wow. But then in a double curveball, we get the real payoff when he bends the knee. So just a really big moment. They took one of my favorite characters and just made him have a weird out all season in Damon, and we finally kind of got somewhere with it.
Fair enough. And another honorable mention here from the season finale. Jamie, did you have this at 6? Just kind of the final montage. I had this down at 41 just because I couldn't get over the fact that you're showing me a trailer for season 3. I couldn't get past that. And
I tried so hard, Mills, to not let that affect my judgment. And when I looked at it and said, okay, I'm not going to assign any motives, any feeling towards this whatsoever. I'm just going to look at it objectively here. It was pretty cool. And it's shit, dude. It's what we spent a whole season waiting for. We should have gotten it, but I did not want that to affect my voting. Maybe I'm wrong for that. It deserves to get all the grief it's getting for what happened. But to me, when you go back and you just actually kind of watch the montage, it's pretty freaking cool.
Oh, it's freaking cool unless you know what happens after that, which is way cooler. So that's it's hard for me to remain unbiased there. Let's jump into our top 10, starting with a moment from episode 2 where Otto has finally had enough and he tells Aegon what he really thinks.
Idiot!
Beware how you speak to your king, my lord.
The king is my grandson, and my grandson is a fool. He's worse than a fool. He's murdered innocent men.
And one guilty one.
And hanged them from the walls of the city for all to see.
Plot against the king, and I will pay it back 100
They
times.
are fathers and brothers and sons. And their wives and children gather now at our gates to weep and curse your name.
Always a good time to see, basically the Tywin Joffrey SmackDown just revisited here. It's happened before, it'll happen again, but enjoyed that very much. Jamie G, you had that one at 21. I had it at 13. Then we have a tie at number 8, starting with Alicent coming to Dragonstone and talking with Rhaenyra. Jamie G, you had this at 8. I had it at 16. Implausible, absolutely, but very cool, yes. So I docked a little bit. I think that's why I was lower on it at 16 than you were at 8. Very profound for Alicent, but also profound in she's like, yeah, you know what? I just kind of want to not be here anymore.
Her unwavering support of her children, virtually since forever, to get to there, and now she had her chance earlier in the season. I just thought it was cool how that kind of came around. Yes, totally unpractical. Wouldn't have, there's no way. They're checking votes now. Aemon's gone crazy, but she can just get there. Sure, all that aside, but it was a pretty awesome scene.
Super awesome scene and look really cool. And because irony is not dead, it's alive. At number 8 in the tie with that scene, we have Rhaenyra sneaking into King's Landing. Jamie G, you had this at 9. I had it at 15. So you were 1 lower on this than the previous one. I was 1 higher. I just thought this was the OG version of the scene. In the best moment, obviously being, at least for me, when Alicent realizes oh shit, Viserys didn't mean what I thought he meant when he said Aegon. He was talking about his vision of Aegon the Conqueror, not necessarily he wanted Aegon to be his heir. Is that about where you're at on this one?
Absolutely. And that was a kind of oh, wow kind of moment, right? And I thought it was big.
But that's what she said, just the boy who came in, when Daemon showed his army. He's like, oh, dude, that's big. It's big. And we're doing a tie thing because we have a tie at number 6. It's also a Caddyshack thing. Why don't you tie me up with your ties? Tie. First, we have Aemon burning Aegon 2 and Sunfire. Jamie G, you had this at 7. I had it at 14. It's super cool and obviously intentional at this point, right? Whatever way you wanted to maybe make some excuses, maybe he was just trying to hit Melees and Rainey's. No, he was definitely trying to take them both out there, right?
Yeah, and you that was kind of Aemon becoming, all right, now there's no more questioning it. We know exactly who he is. We had our suspicions. Now we really know. And it was just, dude, this looked so cool. And again, I don't know, the best episode, second best episode of the season. So definitely a big moment for me.
100 over 100. And then also tied at 6. This is from the season finale. We have Thailand winning over the Triarchy, and especially Admiral Shakaro Lohar. Jamie G, you had this at 13. I had it at 8. Just a couple of banger quotes, weird mud wrestling. It's like all of a sudden, let's do a Pirates of the Caribbean thing. A Pirates of the Caribbean was rated R. And it kind of worked.
It worked. It was fun. It was weird just because I wish this wouldn't have been in the season finale, but you put this in any other episode, other than maybe episode 4, and I think it works even better. But it was so much fun and really a bright spot on a show that's kind of, like we said, dark.
As weird as this is, I think they messed it up. This totally should have been a series of digital shorts. Just make a bunch of like 2 to 3 minute shorts of all the stuff Thailand does over there, and just like that, give us a little in between stuff, and then it maybe explains, what happened, how the ships get there. Just show the ships at the end with them on there with no explanation, and then do that with digital shorts. I think that could have been awesome, and give us a little bit tease of the off season, right?
Yeah.
Just saying, we're available. Max, HBO, Warner Brothers, Discovery, whatever. You lost 10 billion. Could we really do worse? Moving into the top 5, we have an absolute classic scene from Fire and Blood, and this is from episode 2, season 2. This is the fight, basically to the death, between the Cargill twins. Jamie G, you had it at 10. I had it at 6. Maybe it suffers a little bit because the characters weren't really developed maybe as much as you would like, and it was a little difficult to tell who was who during the fight, but very cool and very cool concept, right? Like these two were so attached that the one couldn't even live without the other, but they had enough honor to both, try to do what they were told.
I loved the scene. I think the only reason I knocked it to where I did, and it's still really high, was just because we didn't get a chance to really understand these characters being as big and influential as they were. And so it just didn't get built up enough, and which is odd in a show that spent an entire season building up and edging, that they didn't do it with this, but then they had this beautiful battle scene between the two of them that was just everything you wanted. It had the action, it had the emotion, it was heartfelt at the end. This was really cool. Awesome done, awesome scene. Everything was great. I liked that you didn't know who was who, and it kind of kept you guessing. It was fun, dude. But the fact that we didn't get a chance to build them up to make it more impactful, I think is a little bit of a swing and a miss on the show's part.
You're not wrong, especially because with the way they cut it off, not getting a couple of moments I thought we were going to get, this should have been a top 5 moment.
For sure.
It's 10 for you, 6 for me. That's not bad, but it should have been like in the running for a top 3 best of the season. Like, it just very good, don't get me wrong, but I think it just undersold it a little bit. They could have done a little bit more work, and my guess is if they knew it was only going to be 8 episodes, they would have structured it a little bit differently. There would have been a couple more scenes setting it up. This would have happened in like 3 instead of 2. They would have reshuffled things a bit. So that's my only defense or excuse or whatever you want to call it. At number 4, this is from episode 7. We talked about it a bit already. Hugh the Hammer claiming Vermithor. You had it at 5, I had it at 7. Again, it's not better than Predator.
I'm ready.
Come on! Come on. Do it. Do it! Come on. Come on. Kill me. I'm here. Kill me.
Maybe it's better than Predator 2. I'm not willing to say I actually like Predators. It's definitely better than The Predator. Either the Predator versus Alien movies. Still super awesome when Hugh Hammer just screams at that dragon. It's hard to beat that.
Dude, it's super awesome. And the whole lead up to it, I thought was great too. First time we've ever been down in like the dragon pit or whatever. Really cool stuff here, dude. When he finally just embraces it and lets go of his fear and just scream, that chef's kiss, dude. Good job, Hugh the Hammer.
Right. Is that why it worked? Is it not? We'll never know, apparently, unless George actually finishes the books. And moving into the top 3, we actually have a tie at number 2, starting with a moment from episode 4, the big dragon fight where Rhaenys falls to her death and she knows her dragon's on it. She just lets herself go, and it's just an absolutely beautiful moment. Jamie G, you added 3, I added 2. I mean, this might be a top 5 HBO death. It's way up there.
Dude, it's fantastic. Honest to God, I won't necessarily say it was like, Jon Snow and what was it, season 4, when you thought he died when he got stabbed at it, but 5 maybe, but it was close. It was on the level, dude. Like that was, you thought Snow was dead at the moment, right? But dude, this was really big moment. It was almost more beautiful the way she just went down. I don't know. This is a big, big, big death.
Yeah, see, this feels like the moment they wanted for the Hound in season 8, and they didn't get there. Like this was an earned version of that, probably, because it doesn't have the shock of a red wedding. It doesn't have the non-finality of Jon Snow because he came back to life, or the pure shock value of just Eddard Stark, because no one really thought, really. I mean, he was the star of the show. Like,
he was the big name. Right.
So doing that, I think, was just so unexpected in that. So it's a little bit different than probably any Game of Thrones death we had gotten otherwise. Well, I'm trying to remember back to season 8. I mean, yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I think it's beautiful, and I don't want to take anything.
It's beautiful. Night King death was, we're not going to go there, but this was a beautiful death, and it was just shot so well. It was the best death involving any dragon we've seen. I'll give you that.
All right. And also tied for number 2. This is from episode 7. The closing shots here, where Aemon's pursuing Silverwing, flying by Ulf, who is, buzzing the tower in King's Landing. And then all of a sudden, Vhagar, turn back. Vhagar, flee, because he sees Rhaenyra coming out with a bunch of new dragons. Jamie G, you had this at 4. I had it at 1. And I still argue, I would have rather them ended on that shot than just save 8 as the opener for season 3 then. That would have been my argument. Close the season on that shot. I would have been pissed that we weren't getting any more episodes, but I would have been super hyped, and it would have worked. I stand by that.
You're not wrong. It was a very powerful scene, and it was the first time I think I can remember since the actor change in Aemon where there was fear and there was worry, right? And that was cool. Especially what a dick he is, right? He's like the one-eyed asshole. So
he gets so mad he goes and burns down a town just as a temper tantrum. He burns down a literal town as a temper tantrum.
He does.
Starting to think this Aemon might be a bad egg, dude.
I'm starting to think he might be.
He might be not so great, dude. He might not be that cool after all. At number 1, probably not a surprise given the way we've spoken about it. This is a moment from the finale where Daemon finally bends the knee to Rhaenyra. He utters the sappy but awesome line. Jamie G, you added 1, I added 3. Super awesome. I don't even know what else to say we haven't said already. Just degraded. It managed to pay off the Harrenhal plotline, which is amazing in and of itself, I feel.
Oh, dude, 100%. There's not much more we can say. This was just fantastic. The way it was shot, leading up to it, her arrival at Harrenhal, the room it was in with the dragon on top, dude, it was chef's kiss all the way around.
Would that be Raekwon the chef, or more like a Anthony Bourdain situation?
Little column A, little column B.
Before we move on, Jamie, you are the hedge knight. And Jamie G, before we move on, are you at all surprised that our number 1 moment came out of the Harrenhal plotline?
Yes. In a weird way.
That's all. Like, looking back on it, it totally makes sense, but I would not have guessed that going into the finale. So I guess they really did pay that off.
They really did, dude. It wasn't my favorite storyline this season at all. It kind of felt like, dude, we could have did all that.
But it was a whole circle. I think that's the point.
It was a whole circle. I can't. And it worked.
It was a good circle, nice and round. Very, might use a compass and everything.
Perfect circle. We're getting close to the end here, so I think it's time to hand out our season 2 grades. And just like the episodes, we'll be grading season 2 on a scale of 0 to 100 flagons of ale. First, let's review our episode grades. Take it away.
All right, Jamie G, just going down the board, you went 89, 89, 91, 95, 86, 88, 96, 79, an average of 89.13. I went 88, 87, 89, 98, 85, 90, 95, 74, an average of 82.5. So 88.25. And so it sounds pretty good overall, an average of 88.69. If you look over on IMDb, if you put them on our scale, they're at about a 78.1. Jamie G, are you at all surprised that we were a bit higher than, let's call it, the general public on this season?
Not really. I mean, I guess it's some, but I think we've been doing enough of these, whether it's, like Barry, where we were way, different shows we've done where we've always been a little bit higher. Maybe we just like it more. Maybe we're more generous with our grades.
Well, if you're doing a show about a show, the odds are probably there's a strong correlation between you doing a show about a show and you liking a show. But yeah, that being said, we try to be objective.
We do. And I think our critiques were fair. Maybe our grades didn't always reflect the critique, but I think our critiques were super fair, dude. And it doesn't necessarily surprise me. I think IMDb is generally lower than like most things that I feel. Most things that how I would grade it, just in general, not even this show, movie, random stuff. I mean, come on, dude. What was the grade IMDb gave to, Last Action Hero?
Actually, it's better than you think. That's actually not insane. I think you're talking about more modern stuff where there is some bit of review bombing. In those ways, you can kind of sort that and do a couple of different things. I think the main difference really came out to episode 6, Small Folk, because they had that at a 6.2, and that did seem to pick up some bombing because of the Rhaenyra Mysaria kiss. And I think that actually got some book people involved too, not necessarily because it was a lesbian kiss or anything, but because that's not anywhere in the books. And I think some people, that was just a bridge too far, maybe a little bit. So that one got, bombed pretty hard.
That definitely takes the score low. I mean, that's
right. That's actually lower than the finale. They have the finale at a 6.3 and that at a 6.2. But those are by far, the three lowest ranked rated episodes on IMDb from the entire series are in the last 4 of the season. 7.4 for Regent episode 5, 6.2 for Small Folk episode 6, and 6.3 for the Queen Whoever Was in the finale. So, I think that's where it comes from the most part, and that's why I think some people are a little bit more down on it, even if this is a little bit of review bombing or trolling. There definitely was a little bit of a dip towards the end of the season.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, you got two six point, 60s basically for us. That's only 62 Flagons and 63 Flagons respectively. That'll sink a grade. As a guy who's, been through a lot of law school, Mills, I can tell you, 62 and a 63 does not help your average.
We'll try to trust your math. Just, make sure you use that calculator app.
All right, man. Well, your average grade for season 2 was an 88, but what is your final grade for season 2?
I think because of the way it ended, I have to be a bit down on it, but I'm not going to go crazy. Give me Marty McFly, 85 Flagons of Ale. I have to knock it a bit for just not being a complete story. That just has to be what it is. It had the finale. Had they gone to what I thought they were going to go, it would probably be approaching a 90, maybe above, but I'm going to go 85 Flagons of Ale. Season 2 final grade. So unfortunately, the whole is a little bit less than some of the parts there for me, or at least the average of the parts. Jamie G, how about yourself? Season 2 final grade.
Yeah, so my average here was just a knock above yours at 89 Flagons. I'm gonna drop it just a smidge here, again, mostly because of the finale, and I hate to do that because there were some really great moments here, but ultimately it didn't deliver, it didn't round out, and it didn't give us what we needed to feel satisfied and sustained within season 2. It bled over into season 3. And that sucks. It shouldn't do that. There was enough to do here where we shouldn't feel that way. And for those reasons, I'm going to drop it. I'm going to stay one tick above you here and go 86.
All the man knows is Green Day songs and Price is Right rules. So that still means it's a good season of television. Don't get us wrong. It's not bad, but it definitely was not a complete season. And you could tell, unfortunately. It was a truncated season. And blame that on HBO Max, Warner Brothers, Discovery, whoever you got to blame it on. But it happened.
Yeah, and they should just never do that with their biggest show. Like that's
Cutting
dumb.
off your nose to spite your face. Congratulations, you managed to post a $10 billion loss. You saved a lot of money in taxes. Now what? What are you going to do with the savings? That's the real question. You know what the answer is? Probably stock buybacks, but that's not the conversation for now.
Well, before we give a prediction or two for season 3, let's talk briefly about what's coming next in Westeros. Mills, what's the score here? What is next?
All right, Jamie G. Before we get more hot tea phrasing, we're going to get season 1 of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. This is a new series based on the tales of Dunk and Egg novellas from George R. R. Martin. They follow the adventures of Dunk, who is the future Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, known as Sir Duncan the Tall, and Egg, who is a future king, King Aegon Targaryen V. And it sets some years, about 90 years, you call it, before the events we see in Game of Thrones. The first season will be based on the first novella, The Hedge Knight. Jamie G, you just love it. And as of now, we're looking at a 6-episode season that will be released sometime in late 2025. Jamie G, based on this and the track record here on a scale of 0 to 100 flagons of ale, how excited are you for A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms?
88 flagons of ale. I'm pretty excited about it. And I think it's going to get a lift just because now in this post-COVID universe we live, we got to have 2 years to get our favorite shows back. So I think it'll help kind of give me the fix I need, so to speak. But I don't know how I feel about 6 episodes. That feels really short to tell a story. But I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt here and see how they do. That's the best I can give it right now.
I think that's a pretty fair take. I think this is actually in their favor, honestly. If you told me because these are novellas, they're not typically that long. I would say 100 some pages a piece. I haven't read these in a couple of years. They were generally included in other, compendiums, compilations with other short stories. So there's not a lot to them, but they do connect together and they are great. I think it really comes down to casting for me. I'm going to go stick with the Back to the Future. Give me 85 flagons of ale. I'm very excited. It comes down to nailing the casting. They're going with a kind of unknown cast, which I like. I think totally makes sense for this. If they do this right, these will be very good, very enjoyable. You're not going to get like a lot of dragon fights or anything like that. It's going to be a little bit of a different take, kind of set from not quite, I would say, the small folk point of view, but it'll be an interesting perspective. I don't want to kind of give away the main twist, although I think it's pretty much in the description there in how it'll ultimately work out. But very cool stuff. A little bit tentative. It's a second spinoff of a show. Get a little dicey. I have faith here based on what they've done with Dragons so far. I think they can keep it up, and I think especially the fact that the budget won't be is taxing here gives me a little bit more faith that they're going to be able to kind of stick with it.
Mills, is King Aegon the Fifth? Is that Daenerys' father?
No, but they condensed the timeline a couple of times here, so I'm not 100% sure. But no, it's definitely not.
He's not. So he's not the Mad King.
No, he is not. That was Aerys Targaryen.
So somewhere between this guy's life and Game of Thrones life, within those 90 years, we had at least 2 kings.
At least.
Okay.
There might be many kings, and let's be honest here. We love the kings and the clashing of them, but we're probably not getting any more House of Dragon for quite a while. In fact, we already made our guesses for when season 3 will premiere. Jamie G, you went with April 19th, 2026. I went with December 27th, 2026. Either way, we're going to have plenty of time to make predictions. So I feel like we at least need to throw a couple out there before we finish up the wrap up here. Once again, I have read Fire and Blood, so I'm going to stick to stuff that's different from the books so I avoid possibly spoiling anything here for you. Jamie G, start us off with a prediction for season 3, be it a realistic prediction or a fun one. We like them both.
I think we're going to see a surprise attack battle in the sea where we get Corlys and Sir Alan Hall there, and I think Corlys is going to attempt to save Alan's life but fail.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to go with Oscar Tully gets another one-up on Daemon somewhere. Whether it's saving Daemon in a battle or he makes a smart call and goes against Daemon or something. Again, this is nothing from the books. I'm just the Oscar Tully is kind of a combination of a couple of different characters, so I don't know, but I really like Oscar Tully. I think they like what they have there. I think the show is going to lean into him, use him some way, and definitely use him as a foil for Daemon, because I think that can be super cool.
Love it. That's a fun one, man, for sure. Really, really like that. I'm gonna go ahead and say by episode 3. Actually, I'm not gonna say that. Never mind. Let's just cut that out. I'm not gonna do that.
Jamie G, let me ask you this: who gets a dragon kill first? That we see Aemond or Rhaenyra?
Aemond, just out of the fact that there's less on his side. He has Vhagar, the dragon killer, and yeah, I'm going there.
It seems like he's itching for it. Do you think we get a matchup, a showdown between Aemond and Daemon in season 3?
I think we do, and I think it's going to be fatal for one of them or both. Honestly, I think whenever that happens, that's the end of one or both of those characters. That said, there's going to be four seasons. I don't know that the show I haven't been shown enough that it can go on without either of those two. So I'm going to say no, that doesn't happen until season 4.
All right. How about Otto? Who do you think has him imprisoned? I'm going with Larry Strong. This is not something from the book, so I can freely predict this. I'm saying it's actually somehow Larry's. Even if it's not him himself who has him in prison, he's paying someone to do it or what have you. That's what I'm going with. Jamie G, who do you think has Otto locked up?
That's a really, really, really great question. I'm going to say it's somehow going to tie back to Mysaria. I think she, for some reason, went ahead and made a call, looks at him as a strength, keeping him away from being a strength for Team Green.
How about this? Under over episodes Cregan Stark appears in season 3, 1.5, under over.
I'm going to go with the over, assuming we get 2 episodes
of the season.
Yeah. Assuming he's in at least 2 episodes, even if it's for 2 seconds.
I'm just making fun of you with the idea that Warner Brothers Discovery would cut it down to 2 episodes at this point, because of course, I think you show a huge loss on the balance sheet, dude. Look at the money. Major asset to show a huge loss, right? Is that not the generally accepted rules of accounting? I mean, all right, I'm off on my fucking gap, dude. I am off on my gap. How about
you really
Rhaena? Are we going to see her claim that wild dragon, or will the dragon claim her?
Either does or she dies, right? I'm going to say she does. They put so much into this, but I'm going to say that maybe it doesn't go the way, the interesting thing about this, Mills, is we know this Valyrian bloodline does not last, but that doesn't mean that it's dead now. It could last another 100 years and then die. So I'm going to say she does. I'm going to say she claims it. They made a big hairy deal out of it, so let's say she does.
Who makes it further in the series, Sir Simon Strong or Gwaine Hightower?
Really good. I'm gonna go with Sir Simon Strong because Gwaine, even though he's getting hyped up listening to Gwar, he's going into battle.
Yeah, it's hard to live life in the fast Gwaine. That's it can be taxing on you to do so.
It really is.
How about Kristen Cole? Does he make it through season 3?
Oh, God bless him. Yes, but only by, miracle. But yes, he does.
Which of the dragon seeds gets the first taste of victory? Ulf, Hugh, or Adam?
I'm going to go with Hugh, but I think Adam's a safer bet. But I'm going to go with Hugh. I think Ulf is going to be short-lived, and I think that's going to be the Vhagar's first kill.
Will Jace continue to be just super salty into season 3, or will he get his groove back?
I think he got his. I think he's Stella. Call him Stella. He got his groove back a little bit.
And
but I do think that he's going to end up. I think he might end up I sense a lot of BE between him and Bela. I think they could be.
Well, I was going to ask, like, give me one, maybe a possible get together situation, whether it would be, Rhaenyra and Mysaria again, or do Daemon and Rhaenyra officially rekindle? I mean, we'll see here.
He gave her like a little like head nod where like, yeah, like we're back, we're banging tonight kind of thing. But I'm going with Jace Bela, dude. They teased it. They need to give her something. He is the prince to be here. I'm going to go with her.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have Prince to be. We just have Queen to be, unless Paul Debates has an album I don't know about. But we like that. I think that's about enough of a tease because, again, we have to fill probably somewhere between 20 months and 26 months with more predictions and whatnot. So if you haven't read Fire and Blood, go read it. This story is only going to be about maybe a third of that entire book. So there'll be stuff before it and stuff after it that, yeah, you can read and have fun and enjoy the Game of Thrones universe. Perhaps Winds of Winter will come out at some point. Who knows? I guess it's possible. It's crazy that I've just given up hope that George is actually going to finish the series. Like, at this point, I know we're never getting Dream of Spring. It's just like, will we ever get Winds of Winter? That's really what it's down to. It's wild.
Yeah, and there's just no motivation or reason for him to do it, and that sucks. But don't you worry, because we'll be back for a Night of the Seven's Kingdom, and we're looking forward to that. We will be here for that when it comes out, and as we get the news that it's coming out. Thank you guys for checking us out all season long here on Flagons and Dragons. We love this stuff. We love following the show. We love breaking it down with you on your dragons, riding with us. Make sure you drop a comment below. Give us your final grade for the season and let us know what you're most excited about for season 3. You can either drop the comment or, better yet, you can ride the dragon right into these DMs and we'll respond to you there. Mills will let you know where you can find all of our stuff so you don't miss one single whisker of a dragon's snout. This went somewhere I didn't want it to go. It didn't work. So you don't miss anything we do. Mills?
Says Jamie G, the king of telling her when he's coming out. He might as well just be pink, goddammit. Or just forgot to buy condoms that day. Thank you for checking out Flagons and Dragons, presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff, same place on the internet, dudeswatchstuff.com. We like to keep it easy to remember, just like those flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please hit the thumb. I know it's going to be 2 years. We do other stuff and whatnot. You should check it out. Should be fun. I'm Meg Mills. That's Jamie G. And this has been Flagons and Dragons, and we hope it wasn't just fun. We hope it was a flagon full of fun.
The alliteration. And our flagons, they're empty, but we got plenty of time to fill them back up. Feel free to fly with us into some other shows, but either way, we'll see you next time right here when we're back in Westeros.
Yeah, but now you mentioned, I kind of want to go hang out in Essos. It seems like they really know how to have fun over there, like the good fun, like all the cool people go hang out over there. Also, happy hour there lasts for 2 hours, so that's pretty cool.
To win.
You have proven yourself most accommodating. And more accomplished than one would think, to look at you. I will be pleased to sail at your side. And my captain's with me.